The night, everything shifted. I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to post something like this. But after what happened last month, I can't sleep more than a few hours without replaying everything in my head. I guess this is my way of getting it out, or maybe trying to figure out if I was the one who destroyed everything, or if it was doomed already. My name's Tyler, I'm 31, and I've been with my girlfriend, Hannah, for almost 6 years. We met at a friend's rooftop party in Chicago. I spilled a drink on her shoes, she made fun of me, and somehow that became our origin story. Back then, everything was easy. She had this way of making ordinary nights feel alive. We moved in together after 2 years, adopted a lazy golden retriever named Milo, and started saving for a condo. I thought we were solid. Not perfect, but real. I trusted her like I've never trusted anyone before. Then one night in early September, I saw a message I wasn't supposed to see. That night, Hannah had fallen asleep early on the couch. We'd just had dinner, pasta and wine, nothing special, and we're watching The Bear on Hulu. Her phone buzzed once, twice, 3 times in a row. Normally, I don't even glance at it. But the sound kept repeating, like whoever was texting her didn't care that it was nearly midnight. At first, I told myself not to look. I even muted the TV and tried to focus on the screen. But the messages came again, lighting up the room in short blue flashes. I saw the name, Eli, and my stomach tightened. Eli was her coworker. I'd met him twice. Tall, quiet, polite, maybe a little too charming. He was always around in her stories. Eli helped with the presentation. Eli said something funny at lunch. I never thought much of it before. Then, another notification popped up, a preview of the message. It read, "You looked incredible today. I can't stop thinking about it." I froze. Every rational thought I had started arguing with itself. Maybe it's a joke. Maybe he's just flirty. Maybe she didn't even see it yet. But another part of me, the quiet, stubborn part, whispered that I already knew. I sat there for almost a full minute, staring at the screen, until Milo stirred and bumped my leg. That small movement snapped me out of it. I didn't open her phone. I just stood up, walked to the window, and tried to breathe. The city lights outside looked fake, like someone had painted them onto glass. I wanted to wake her up and demand an explanation, but something stopped me. Maybe fear, maybe pride, maybe both. The next morning, I acted like nothing happened. I made coffee, kissed her on the head, and told her I'd be working late. She smiled, said she loved me, and that was it. She had no idea I'd seen the message. I spent the whole day at work in a fog. Every time my phone buzzed, I thought it was her. Every time my coworker said something normal, I wanted to scream. At lunch, I searched what to do if you think your partner is cheating. The answers were useless. Talk to them. Be honest. Don't jump to conclusions. But how do you not jump when the ground's already cracking? That night, I came home early. Hannah wasn't there. Her phone was gone, Milo was asleep, and there was a note on the counter. Ran out to grab drinks with coworkers. Don't wait up, Red Heart. I stared at the heart. It looked like an apology, but I didn't know for what. I sat on the couch, same spot as before, and waited. The apartment felt too quiet. I started noticing all the small things I'd ignored before. The 2 wine glasses drying by the sink, the extra charger she kept in her bag, the perfume she started wearing only on weekdays. When she came home around midnight, she was laughing into her phone. She looked surprised to see me still up. "Hey," she said, almost startled. "I thought you were working late." "Got off early," I said. "How was it?" "It was good. Just drinks. You know, end of quarter stuff." Her eyes flicked away for a second too long. I wanted to ask about Eli. I wanted to say I saw the text. But instead, I nodded and went to bed. It wasn't courage that kept me quiet. It was calculation. I needed to be sure. For the next few days, I paid attention. I noted when she left, when she texted, how often her phone was face down. I hated myself for doing it, but I couldn't stop. Then Friday came. She told me she'd be working late, but her office closes at 6. I called at 7:30, no answer. At 8:45, she texted, "Still wrapping up, be home soon, Red Heart." At 9:10, I drove downtown. Her office building has a glass lobby that looks into the street. From my car, I saw lights on the 4th floor, her floor. A few silhouettes moved inside. I told myself I'd just wait, see her come out, prove myself wrong. But then she did come out. And she wasn't alone. Eli walked beside her. They were talking, close, too close. When she laughed, she touched his arm. My chest felt like it caved in. They stopped by the door. For a second, I thought I imagined it. The way he looked at her, like she was already his. Then he reached out, brushed something off her cheek. And she didn't pull away. I drove off before I saw anything else. I didn't confront her that night. I couldn't. I spent hours in my car, parked by the lake, thinking about everything. Every good memory, every bad one, every moment that now felt like a lie. When I finally came home, she was asleep, or pretending to be. Her phone was face down again on the nightstand. I lay there beside her, staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathing, wondering if she could tell that mine had changed. Proof. The next morning, Hannah acted normal. Too normal. She kissed me on the cheek, asked if I wanted pancakes, and hummed while making coffee. I couldn't stop watching her. Every gesture looked rehearsed, like she was following a script written for a woman who wasn't hiding anything. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But belief is fragile once you've seen something you can't unsee. I told her I'd be heading into the office early. She smiled and said, "Don't work too hard." That was the last normal sentence between us. When I got to my car, I didn't drive to work. I parked 3 blocks away and opened my laptop. I wasn't proud of what I did next, but it felt like survival. I logged into our shared phone plan. I'd never checked the detailed call logs before. I didn't even know I could. But there it was, every text, every call, timestamped. Over the past month, Hannah had exchanged over 400 messages with one number, Eli's. The pattern was clear: short bursts during the day, longer at night, and always around the time she said she was staying late. I stared at the screen for 10 minutes, numb. Then I copied the number and sent it to myself. That was my proof, or maybe the start of losing myself. The rest of the day, I couldn't focus. My coworkers noticed I was distracted, but I just blamed lack of sleep. By evening, I'd made a decision. I needed to see how far this had gone. I wasn't going to accuse her without undeniable evidence. That night, when Hannah went to shower, I picked up her phone. My hands were shaking. I told myself I'd only look at the messages, nothing else. But the phone was locked. I didn't know her passcode, or at least, I thought I didn't. Then I remembered something. 2 months earlier, we'd been watching a true crime show where the killer used his girlfriend's birthday as his phone code. Hannah had laughed and said, "That's stupid. Everyone guesses birthdays." She'd changed her lock screen that night. Her birthday was May 14th. I tried 0514. The screen opened. I didn't feel triumph, just guilt, heavy and cold. The messages with Eli weren't romantic in the beginning. They were about work, jokes, memes, inside references. Then, around mid-August, the tone shifted. He started complimenting her, her smile, her energy, the way she made Mondays tolerable. She didn't shut it down. By September, they were texting late at night. Messages like, "Can't sleep again. You still awake?" "Yeah. Thinking about today." "Me too." The last thread was from the night before. Eli had written, "Wish I could have stayed longer. You looked so happy." And Hannah replied, "Me too. Let's not talk about it here." I put the phone down like it burned me. I could have confronted her right then. But instead, I left the apartment, walked Milo around the block twice, and tried to convince myself I was wrong. Maybe it was emotional, not physical. Maybe I'd twisted things. But deep down, I knew. The next day was Saturday. She said she had brunch plans with her friend Lauren. I knew Lauren. She was real. But I also knew Lauren was on a work trip. I checked her Instagram before Hannah even left. News story from Denver. Hannah was lying. I waited 15 minutes after she left, then followed her. I felt insane, like some stranger had taken over my body. She drove downtown, parked outside a small cafe I didn't recognize. I watched from across the street. 10 minutes later, Eli showed up. No hesitation, no hiding. They hugged. Not a polite hug, the kind that lingers. Something inside me broke, but not loudly. It was quiet, like glass cracking underwater. I stayed long enough to see them go inside, sit at a corner table, and laugh. That was enough. I left before she saw me. I didn't confront her that night either. I couldn't. She came home smiling, told me brunch was great, and kissed me on the cheek. My whole body tensed at her touch. That's when I started planning. I didn't want revenge. I wanted truth. Cold, undeniable truth. I downloaded a small app that mirrored her phone notifications to mine. It wasn't exactly legal, but I found it online, one of those parental safety tools. I told myself it was temporary, just until I understood what was happening. For the next 3 days, I got everything she got. Texts, calls, even location updates. Every ping felt like another cut. I learned her routines in brutal detail. When she texted him from the break room, when she ignored my calls because she was in a meeting, when she sent him a picture of her coffee with the caption, "Wish you were here." The hardest part was pretending not to know. Every morning, she'd smile at me across the breakfast table while texting him under the counter. I memorized her lies by heart. Then on Thursday night, something new came through. A notification from Eli. "Hotels booked. You sure about this?" Her reply, "I need a break from everything. Just one night." My heart stopped. The timestamp was 9:12 p.m. I was sitting 3 feet from her on the couch when she sent it. I wanted to shout, to throw the phone, to tell her I knew. But I stayed silent. She glanced at me once, smiling faintly. "You okay?" she asked. "I'm fine," I said. I wasn't. That night, I lay awake listening to her breathe beside me. I thought about the years we'd spent together, birthdays, trips, arguments that ended in laughter. And all I could think was how easily she'd stepped out of it all. By morning, I decided. I wasn't going to wait for the truth to fall into my lap. I was going to catch her in it. When she said she had to stay late, again that Friday, I didn't argue. I kissed her goodbye, fed Milo, and waited exactly 1 hour before leaving. I drove downtown again, same direction as before, but this time I had her live location. It led me to a hotel, one of those mid-range chain places near the river, the kind used for conferences or affairs. Her car was in the lot. I parked 2 blocks away and sat there for 10 minutes, palms sweating, heart pounding. I didn't know what I'd do when I saw her. I didn't want to hurt anyone. I just needed to see. I walked through the lobby like a ghost, scanning the elevators. The clerk barely looked up. I had her location on my phone, 4th floor, room 418. I reached the door and froze. I could hear muffled voices inside. Hers. His. Laughter. I don't remember breathing. I just remember knocking once. Hard. The laughter stopped. Silence. Then footsteps. The door opened halfway. Hannah stood there in a white hotel robe. Her face went pale. "Tyler." I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. Eli appeared behind her, shirt half-buttoned, eyes wide. And in that moment, everything I'd built, 6 years, love, trust, future plans, shattered without sound. The fallout. For a few seconds, no one said anything. The silence was so thick I could hear my pulse in my ears. Hannah's lips parted like she was about to speak, but nothing came out. Eli took a small step back, avoiding my eyes. I just stood there, frozen, still holding my phone like proof of everything. I didn't shout. I didn't push the door. I just said quietly, "Can I come in?" She hesitated, then opened the door wider. Eli moved to the far side of the room, arms crossed like a kid caught stealing. I stepped inside. The room smelled like cheap air freshener and perfume, hers. On the dresser sat 2 glasses, one half empty. The bed sheets were messy, and my brain refused to process what that meant. "How long?" I asked. My voice cracked halfway through the question. Hannah didn't answer at first. She just stared at the floor. "Tyler, please." "How long?" "A few weeks," she whispered. "A few weeks?" I laughed once, sharp and bitter. "So all those late nights, all those work drinks." "I didn't plan this," she said. "It just happened." That phrase, the universal excuse. It just happened. Like love is gravity, and she tripped into him. Eli finally spoke. "Man, I'm sorry. We didn't mean for." "Don't." I turned toward him. "You don't get to talk." He shut up immediately. Hannah started crying then, quiet tears that made me feel nothing. 6 years together, and she was crying because she got caught, not because she hurt me. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to make her feel a fraction of what was tearing through me. But all I could do was stand there, numb. "I trusted you," I said. "You told me I was the only one." "You were," she said. "You are. I made a mistake." "Sleeping with someone isn't a mistake," I said. "Forgetting milk is a mistake." She wiped her face. "It wasn't like that. We didn't." She stopped, realized lying would make it worse, and fell silent. I turned for the door. "I'm done. Tyler, please. Don't leave like this." "Like what?" I asked. "Like the guy you just destroyed?" She grabbed my arm, but I shook her off. "Please," she said again. "Just talk to me." "Talk," I said. "You've been talking to him every night. What's left to say?" I walked out, closed the door behind me, and didn't look back. Outside, the air hit cold and sharp. I walked to my car without feeling my legs. I sat there for a long time, hands on the wheel, staring at nothing. Eventually, I started driving, no idea where I was going. Every light turned red. Every street looked unfamiliar. By the time I stopped, I was at the lake again. I parked, got out, and just stood there by the water. The surface was still, reflecting the city lights. I thought about the first time Hannah and I came here. We'd fed ducks and talked about moving somewhere quiet. I thought about the little moments I'd replayed 1,000 times. Her falling asleep on my chest, laughing while cooking, calling me her safe place. All of it felt like scenes from someone else's life. Around 2 in the morning, I drove home. The apartment was dark. Milo lifted his head when I came in, tail wagging weakly, then went back to sleep. I sat on the couch, turned off all the lights, and waited for morning. At sunrise, I started packing. I didn't take much: clothes, laptop, toothbrush, Milo stuff. By the time she got home, I was almost done. She froze in the doorway. "Tyler, I'm leaving," I said. "Don't worry, you can keep the apartment. I just can't stay here." Her voice broke. "Where will you go? I'll figure it out. Please, just talk to me," she said, stepping closer. "I made a mistake. I'll end it. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't walk away." I looked at her then. She looked wrecked, mascara smeared, hands shaking. But all I could see was the hotel room, the robe, Eli's face. "I can't forgive you," I said. "Not now? Maybe not ever." She started sobbing again, reaching for me, but I stepped back. "Don't," I said quietly. "Just don't." I took Milo's leash, opened the door, and left. For the next week, I stayed with my friend Chris. I told him we'd broken up, but not why. I couldn't bring myself to say the words out loud. I worked, ate, slept, repeated. The world moved on, but I felt stuck in a loop, replaying that night in the hotel like a film I couldn't stop watching. On the 4th night, Hannah texted me. "Can we talk? Please. Just once." I didn't reply. The next day, another message. I ended things with him. "I swear. I miss you." Still nothing. Then came the last one. "If you ever loved me, just tell me you're done. Don't leave me hanging like this." I typed a dozen replies. Deleted them all. Finally, I just sent, "I'm done." No more messages came after that. But endings aren't clean. They linger. I'd wake up some nights expecting to feel her beside me. I'd catch myself reaching for my phone to text her something small, a meme, a joke, before remembering she wasn't mine anymore. A week later, Chris convinced me to go out for drinks. "You've been living like a ghost," he said. "Come on, man." One night. At the bar, everything felt normal for about an hour. Then I saw her name flash across my phone again, a voicemail this time. I almost ignored it, but something made me listen. Her voice was quiet, tired. "Hey, I know you don't want to hear from me. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Not because I got caught. Because I broke something that was good. You didn't deserve that. I hope you find someone better than me." I saved the message, but I never responded. That night, I went home and deleted every photo of her, every text thread, every reminder. But the memories stayed anyway. You can erase a number, not the imprint it leaves. 2 weeks passed. Then one morning, my phone buzzed again, a message from an unknown number. "Tyler, it's Eli. Can we talk?" I stared at it for a long time. The audacity almost made me laugh. I didn't reply, but he kept sending messages. "She's not doing well. You should know she's been seeing a therapist. She blames herself completely." I muted the number, but something inside me still twisted. I didn't want updates, but I couldn't stop thinking about them. Guilt mixes with anger until you can't tell them apart. A few days later, Chris asked if I was okay. I told him the truth. I don't know. Because I didn't. I wasn't angry anymore, not really. Just empty. Like someone had scraped everything out and left the shell standing. That weekend, I drove back to the apartment to pick up some mail. Hannah wasn't home. Her name was still on the door. Inside, everything looked the same: plants watered, photos still on the wall, my old coffee mug on the counter. For a moment, I thought about staying, about forgiving. But then I noticed something on the fridge, a new photo. Hannah and her sister at a restaurant. And there, barely visible in the reflection behind them, was Eli. She hadn't ended it after all. I left the keys on the table and walked out for the last time. The aftermath. I moved into a small one-bedroom apartment on the north side of the city. It wasn't much: secondhand furniture, thin walls, a view of a parking lot. but it was quiet. I told myself that was all I needed. Peace. No more lies, no more pretending. But silence isn't peace. It's just space for the noise in your head to echo louder. The first few days, I kept expecting Hannah to show up at my door. She didn't. I checked my phone constantly, even though I'd blocked her number. Old habits die hard. Every buzz made my pulse jump. Every voicemail icon felt like a ghost tapping my shoulder. Then came the dreams. In them, she was still with me, laughing, reaching out, saying things that made no sense. I'd wake up sweating, heart racing, Milo whining softly beside the bed. The line between memory and nightmare blurred fast. One night, I went for a walk around 2 a.m. The streets were empty except for a few flickering streetlights. I passed a couple holding hands, laughing, and felt something twist in my chest. I wasn't jealous. I was scared I'd never feel that again. Grief isn't just for the dead. It's for the living who vanish in a different way. A few weeks later, I ran into Lauren, Hannah's real friend, at a coffee shop near my new place. I froze when I saw her. She looked surprised too, but then gave a small, awkward smile. "Hey," she said. "Didn't expect to see you here." "Yeah," I muttered. "New neighborhood." There was a pause. She hesitated before asking, "How are you holding up?" I wanted to lie. Instead, I just said, "Surviving." She nodded slowly. "I heard what happened." She told me everything. Of course she did. Everything, I repeated. "She's not doing great," Lauren said carefully. "I'm not defending her, but she knows she ruined it. She talks about you all the time." I didn't respond. I just stared at the steam rising from my coffee. "She's trying to get help," Lauren added. "Therapy, cutting ties with him. She said she doesn't expect forgiveness. She just wants you to be okay." I took a long breath. "Tell her I am." Lauren looked at me like she didn't believe it, but she didn't push. "You don't deserve what happened," she said softly. "Neither of you do, honestly. Sometimes people just break." I finished for her. She nodded. When she left, I sat there for a while, staring at the empty chair across from me. That was the first time I realized how much of my life had revolved around Hannah. Every plan, every routine, every thought had a shadow of her in it. And now there was just air. By December, 3 months had passed. The pain dulled, but it didn't vanish. It settled into something quieter, a kind of scar you stop noticing until someone brushes against it. Work helped. So did Milo. I started going to the gym again, started cooking instead of ordering takeout. Bit by bit, I felt pieces of myself returning. But some days, it still hit out of nowhere. A smell, a song, a place we used to go. One Saturday afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. "Hello." "Hey." It was Hannah. Her voice was calm, softer than I remembered. "I changed my number," she said quickly. "Don't hang up. Please." I didn't. Maybe I should have, but I didn't. "I'm not calling to ask for anything," she continued. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry again. And to thank you for not destroying me online or to our friends. You could have ruined my life. You didn't." "I wasn't trying to protect you," I said flatly. "I just wanted to disappear." "I know," she said. "And you had every right." There was silence. I could hear her breathing, faint and steady. Then she said, "I'm leaving Chicago, transferring to another office. I think it's time." I didn't respond. "I just thought you should know," she said finally. "And I hope someday you meet someone who doesn't make you doubt yourself." I almost said something. I don't even know what. But the line clicked dead before I could. I stared at my phone for a long time after that. Then I deleted the call log and went back to work. It didn't feel like closure. It felt like a quiet ending. The kind you don't realize you've reached until you turn the page and there's nothing left. Winter came fast that year. Chicago turned gray again, the streets buried under snow. I started spending my evenings reading or walking Milo by the lake. The same place I'd gone the night everything fell apart. It looked different now, calmer. I looked different too. One evening, while walking there, I saw a couple sitting on the same bench Hannah and I once shared. They were laughing about something small, and for the first time, it didn't hurt. It just reminded me that love can exist again, even after it breaks. When I got home that night, I opened my laptop and started typing everything, from the first message I saw to the hotel, to the last phone call. Not for revenge, not to get sympathy, just to put it somewhere outside my head. I titled it, "The Message I Wasn't Supposed to See." I didn't expect anyone to read it. But somehow, writing it made me feel lighter. Like naming the wound helped it close a little. 2 weeks later, I posted it anonymously online. I wasn't planning to, but I stumbled on a thread on Reddit, r/true off my chest, and it felt like the right place. Within hours, it exploded. Thousands of comments. Some people called me strong. Others said I should have handled it differently. A few accused me of making it up. But the messages that mattered were from people who said they'd been there too. One wrote, "I thought I was the only one who went through something like this. Reading your story helped." That line hit me harder than anything else. For the first time since the breakup, I felt like something good had come out of it. Maybe that was enough. A month later, I got an email from someone with no profile photo, no name. It said only, "You told our story better than I ever could. I hope you're healing. H." I read it once, twice, then closed my laptop. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. That night, I went for another walk by the lake. The air was cold, the city lights reflecting off the frozen water. I watched Milo chase his own breath in the snow and felt something shift inside me. Not quite peace, but the beginning of it. Maybe some stories don't end cleanly. Maybe they just fade until one day you realize you've stopped waiting for the echo. The message I wasn't supposed to see. The night everything changed started like any other. I was sitting on the couch with my laptop, half watching some random Netflix show while Emily scrolled through her phone beside me. She was laughing at TikToks, showing me a few, acting like nothing was wrong. But ever since that weekend, when she'd gone to visit her sister, something in her energy had been off. She was warmer, too warm, touchier, more attentive, like she was compensating for something. I told myself I was being paranoid. I didn't want to be that guy who checked his girlfriend's phone. I believed in trust. But that night, her phone buzzed on the arm of the couch. She got up to grab water, and instinct took over. The preview on her lock screen said, "Can't stop thinking about you today." No name, just a heart emoji. I froze. The show blurred into background noise. My heart felt like it was pushing up into my throat. I stared at the screen until it dimmed and locked again. She walked back into the room, casual as ever, holding her glass. I didn't confront her right away. I couldn't. Instead, I waited. She sat down next to me, snuggled in, and asked what episode we were on. I mumbled something about being tired and went to bed early. When she finally fell asleep, I couldn't. I lay there listening to her breathe, feeling my chest tighten with every inhale she took. Around 2 a.m., she shifted, rolled over, and her phone buzzed again on the nightstand. I picked it up. There it was, the same contact, no name, just a single emoji. I unlocked it using her passcode, which I already knew. The message read, "Wish I could be next to you right now. You smell like heaven." My body went cold. I scrolled up. The thread was filled with messages, flirtatious, intimate, sometimes explicit. They'd been talking for weeks. He called her M, told her she made him feel alive. She told him she didn't mean for this to happen, that she couldn't stop thinking about him. And then I saw it. A photo. Not inappropriate, but intimate. Emily wearing one of my hoodies, smiling in her car. He'd replied, "God, I miss you already." I locked the phone and put it back. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, I made coffee like nothing had happened. She came out sleepy-eyed, kissed me on the cheek, asked if I'd slept okay. I said, "Yeah, fine." My voice didn't even shake. I think part of me was numb. All day, I tried to convince myself it was a misunderstanding. Maybe it was an emotional affair, maybe it wasn't physical. But deep down, I knew better. That evening, she said she needed to run an errand. I said I'd come with her. She hesitated. Then she said she'd only be gone 15 minutes. I watched her car pull out, waited 2 minutes, and followed. I didn't have a plan. I just drove. She stopped at a park on the edge of town, the same park where we'd had picnics before. I parked far away and watched from a distance. Another car pulled up beside hers. A man got out. Tall, clean cut, maybe mid-30s. They hugged. Not a friendly hug, one that lingered. My stomach twisted. I wanted to storm over there, to shout, to demand answers. But I couldn't move. I just sat there, gripping the steering wheel so hard my fingers hurt. After a few minutes, she leaned against her car, and he touched her face. They kissed. That was the moment something inside me broke. I drove home. No yelling, no confrontation. Just silence. I waited for her to come back. When she did, she smiled like nothing was wrong. I told her I knew. She froze. The color drained from her face. Then came the tears, the apologies, I didn't mean for it to happen. It was a mistake. She swore it wasn't physical, but I'd seen them. I told her I didn't want to hear it. I packed a bag and left that night. The drive to my brother's apartment felt like a fever dream. My phone buzzed with her messages. Please talk to me. It was just a stupid mistake. I love you. I'm sorry. I didn't answer any of them. For the first time in 2 years, I felt completely empty. The days that followed were worse than I expected. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. My brother tried to get me out of the house, but I just sat staring at my phone. Every time her name popped up, I felt sick. And yet, I didn't block her. I couldn't. She sent long paragraphs explaining herself. She said the guy, Jason, was someone from work. It started as flirting, then got out of hand. She said they only kissed once. I didn't believe her. But the part that hurt the most was when she said, I don't know why I did it. You didn't do anything wrong. I just felt like something was missing. That sentence replayed in my head for days. If I didn't do anything wrong, why wasn't I enough? That question still haunts me. A week later, she showed up at my brother's apartment. She looked wrecked, puffy eyes, trembling hands. She begged me to talk. I let her in. We sat in silence for a long time before she said, I wish you hadn't seen those messages. I said, I wish you hadn't sent them. That ended the conversation. She cried again, said she'd do anything to make it right. She wanted therapy, forgiveness, a second chance. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no either. And that's how we ended up trying to rebuild something that had already burned down. A decision that, looking back, I'm still not sure was mercy or weakness. Trying to forgive her. When Emily asked me to meet her at the cafe near her office 2 weeks later, I almost said no. But curiosity, or maybe leftover love, made me go. She was already there, sitting by the window with 2 coffees. She looked smaller somehow, like she'd been carrying something heavy. She started talking before I even sat down. I know you don't trust me. I don't blame you. But please, just let me explain everything. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were red. She told me she'd ended things with Jason immediately after I found out. She'd quit the project they worked on together and told HR she needed a transfer. She said she'd deleted his number and blocked him on everything. I wanted to believe her, but every word sounded like a line rehearsed 100 times in the mirror. I asked her why. Not in anger, just quietly. Why did you do it? She stared at her coffee. I don't know, she said finally. It wasn't about you. It was about me. I felt invisible, like we were stuck. You were working late, I was lonely, and he noticed me. Her honesty didn't help. It made it worse. Because she was right. We had gotten comfortable. We'd stopped doing the little things. But still, that didn't excuse it. I told her I needed time. She nodded, said she'd wait. That night, I went home and deleted all our old photos from my phone. It felt like amputating a part of my life. Days passed, then weeks. She kept reaching out, short messages, always polite, never pushy. Hope you're eating. Thinking about you. I miss you. Sometimes I replied. Sometimes I didn't. Then one night, after too many drinks with my brother, I texted her back. Just one line. Come over. She showed up 20 minutes later. We didn't talk much. We just fell into each other, like 2 people clinging to the memory of what they used to be. The next morning, I woke up beside her and felt something I hadn't felt in months, peace. But it was fake. I knew it. Trying to rebuild what she'd broken was like gluing together glass. It looked fine from a distance, but every edge was sharp. She started going to therapy. She asked me to come with her. I resisted at first, but eventually agreed. The first session was brutal. The therapist asked questions I didn't want to answer. Do you want to forgive her? Do you still love her? Or do you love who she used to be? I didn't know. Emily cried the whole time. She talked about guilt, about how she hated herself for what she'd done. I sat there, silent, numb. After the session, she asked if I thought it helped. I said I didn't know, but I kept going. Every week, sitting in that same chair, hearing her admit her faults. It was strange. Hearing her take responsibility made me both hate her and pity her. One day, the therapist asked me to describe the moment I found out about the affair. I did. Every detail. The phone screen, the message, the park. Emily sobbed silently beside me. When I finished, the therapist asked, "What did you feel?" "Nothing," I said. I shut down. She nodded. That's trauma. I'd never thought of it that way. I thought trauma was something that happened in war, or to people who'd seen horrible things. But it made sense. My body had gone into survival mode that night. Weeks turned into months. Slowly, the anger dulled. We started seeing each other again, not as a couple, but as two people trying to remember why they mattered to each other. We'd grab dinner, watch a movie, talk about neutral things. She was careful now. She'd text me before leaving work, send pictures when she was out with friends, always making sure I knew where she was. At first, it felt like control. But later, it started to feel like effort. Real effort. Then one night, after therapy, she asked if we could start over. Not as if nothing happened, she said. Just as if we survived it. I didn't answer right away. I thought about everything. The betrayal, the pain, the sleepless nights. But I also thought about the version of her sitting across from me now, broken but trying. So I said, we can try. It wasn't forgiveness. It was surrender. The following weeks were strange. We spent more time together again. She moved some of her things back into my apartment. The first few nights, I couldn't sleep next to her. Every time she touched me, I saw that message on her phone. But eventually, it got easier. We laughed again, cooked dinner, even went on a short trip to the coast, like old times. For a while, I thought maybe we were okay. But then, one night, when she went to the bathroom, I glanced at her phone on the table. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I didn't trust myself. I didn't touch it. I just stared at it, waiting to feel nothing. But I felt everything. Fear, doubt, anger, love. That was when I realized something I hadn't admitted yet. I might forgive her one day, but I'd never forget. And maybe that meant we were doomed. After she came out, I smiled, pretending everything was fine. But deep down, I knew I was still standing on the edge of something fragile. The kind of love that breaks once never fits the same way again. The cracks return. For a few months, we lived in a strange kind of peace. From the outside, we looked like a normal couple again. Dinners at home, weekend hikes, lazy Sunday mornings. Friends said we seemed stronger than ever. Even my brother, who'd sworn he'd never forgive her, told me, maybe she really changed. I wanted to believe that. I really did. But peace built on broken trust is fragile. You breathe too hard, and it shakes. The first crack appeared one Thursday night. Emily was late coming home from work. Not unusual, but she didn't text. Around 8:30 p.m. I called her. No answer. I tried again. Straight to voicemail. By the time she walked through the door, it was almost 10. She looked tired, hair messy, holding takeout. Sorry, she said. Meeting ran long. Then traffic. I nodded. I wanted to believe her. But that old, cold feeling started creeping up again. The one that told me something wasn't right. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat in the dark living room, staring at the city lights outside. I didn't check her phone. I didn't need to. The paranoia itself was enough to destroy me. I realized that forgiveness wasn't a switch. It was a daily decision, one that got heavier every time doubt whispered in my ear. Over the next few weeks, small things started bothering me. The way she'd angle her phone away when texting. The way she'd smile at notifications. None of it was proof, but it didn't need to be. The mind doesn't wait for evidence to panic. One night, during dinner, she noticed me staring at her phone. She sighed. You can look if you want, she said. I have nothing to hide. Her voice wasn't defensive, it was exhausted. I didn't look. I just said, that's not the point. She nodded slowly. Then what is the point, Alex? Because if you can't trust me, why are we doing this? I didn't have an answer. We sat in silence until the food went cold. That night, we slept with our backs turned to each other. The next morning, she kissed my cheek goodbye, but it felt mechanical. We were slipping again, and both of us knew it. A week later, I ran into Jason at the grocery store. The man from the park. He looked uncomfortable when he saw me. I could see it in his eyes, that awkward mix of guilt and recognition. He said, Hey man, how are you? I stared at him. Don't, I said. You don't get to ask that. He nodded, looked down. For what it's worth, she really did end it. Haven't talked to her since. I didn't know whether to believe him or hit him. Instead, I just walked away. That night, I told Emily I'd seen him. She froze. What did he say? Nothing that matters, I replied. She looked like she wanted to say something else, but didn't. 2 days later, I found her crying in the kitchen. She said she couldn't take it anymore. The tension, the way I looked at her, the silence between us. I love you, but I feel like I'm living on trial, she said. And she wasn't wrong. I told her I was trying, but the truth was, I wasn't sure what I was trying for anymore. Was I fighting for love, or just fighting the idea of losing? We agreed to take a break. She packed a few things, went to stay with her sister. The apartment felt empty again, the same way it had after she cheated. I should have felt relief, but instead I felt hollow. During that break, I kept thinking about the early days. The way she used to look at me like I was the only person in the room. The way we'd stay up talking about the future. And I realized that I missed that version of her, the one that no longer existed. After 2 weeks, she texted me. Can we talk? We met at a park, not the one where I'd seen her with him, a different one. She brought coffee. I brought the kind of resignation that comes after too many emotional wars. She said she'd been thinking, really thinking, about everything. About how we'd tried to move on without actually healing. About how she'd been waiting for me to forgive her when maybe I never truly could. Then she said something that caught me off guard. If staying with me means hating me, please don't. It was quiet for a long time after that. Finally, I said, I don't hate you. I just don't know how to love you anymore. She nodded, tears welling up. Then maybe it's time to stop trying. She stood, hugged me, and whispered, thank you for at least trying. Then she walked away. No yelling, no scene. Just two people who had already lost each other long before they said goodbye. I sat there until it got dark, listening to the wind move through the trees, feeling something I couldn't name. It wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness. It was acceptance. That night, I went home and deleted her number, for real this time. No backups, no messages saved. Just gone. But even without the number, her presence lingered everywhere. The mug she used. The smell of her shampoo. The dent in the pillow on her side of the bed. I realized then that moving on doesn't happen when you delete someone from your phone. It happens when you can finally stop replaying the story in your head. I wasn't there yet. But for the first time, I wanted to be. Learning to let go. The first week without Emily felt like being underwater. Everything sounded muffled. Food had no taste. Days blurred together. I'd wake up, go to work, come home, and sit in silence, waiting for a text that never came. At first, I told myself it was just another break. We'd had plenty before. We'd find our way back like we always did. But deep down, I knew this time was different. There was no anger left, no bargaining. Just an empty calm. The kind that comes after the storm has already torn everything apart. I started going on long drives at night. No destination, no music. Just me and the road. Sometimes I'd end up by the coast, sitting on the hood of my car, listening to waves crash in the dark. It became my way of breathing again. One night, I stopped by a diner we used to go to. The waitress, who'd known us for years, asked how Emily was. I froze for a second, then said, she's good. I didn't have the heart to explain. That lie stayed with me the whole night. After that, I decided I needed to start being honest, not with other people, but with myself. I started therapy again, this time alone. The first few sessions were rough. The therapist asked me questions I didn't want to answer. Things like, what part of you stayed because you were scared to be alone? Why do you confuse forgiveness with peace? Do you miss her, or do you miss who you were when you loved her? Those hit harder than I expected. I realized I'd built my identity around being her boyfriend. Every plan I made included her. Without her, I didn't know what direction my life had anymore. So I started making small changes. I rearranged the apartment. I painted the living room. I threw out the things that hurt to look at. The framed photo from our first trip, her old toothbrush, the blanket she loved. It wasn't about erasing her. It was about reclaiming space. One afternoon, I found her journal under the bed while cleaning. For a moment, I thought about reading it. I wanted to know what she'd written about us, what she'd thought during those months we were falling apart. But then I stopped. If I read it, I'd be holding on to her again, trying to understand something that no longer mattered. So I closed it and put it in a box for her. That night, I wrote her a letter. Not to send, just to say what I needed to say. I told her I forgave her, but I was done trying to fix something that was meant to end. I told her I hoped she found peace, and that maybe one day, we'd both look back and understand why it had to happen. When I finished, I didn't feel lighter, but I did feel real. Over the next few weeks, I started living again. Slowly, I met up with friends I hadn't seen in months. Went hiking, cooked for myself, even started reading again, something I hadn't done since before the breakup. It wasn't happiness, but it was healing. Then one evening, out of nowhere, I got a message. Her name popped up on my phone. Emily, hey, I know it's been a while. I just wanted to say thank you. For everything. I stared at it for a long time. Part of me wanted to ask how she was, if she missed me, if she was seeing someone new. But I didn't. Instead, I typed, "You're welcome. Take care of yourself." Then I muted the chat. Not blocked, just silence. That was the last time we ever spoke. Months passed. Seasons changed. Life didn't feel heavy anymore. I even started dating again, though nothing serious. I wasn't looking for another forever. I was just learning to enjoy moments again. Simple, honest moments that didn't carry the weight of the past. Sometimes I'd still think about her, but not with anger or longing. More like remembering someone from another lifetime. One day, while cleaning out old files on my laptop, I found a folder named Us. Inside were hundreds of pictures, road trips, birthdays, random selfies. I scrolled through them one last time. And for the first time since everything happened, I smiled. Because even though it ended badly, not all of it was bad. There were good days, real ones. And pretending they never happened would have been unfair to both of us. I moved the folder to an external drive and tucked it away. Not deleted, not displayed, just stored. A memory, not a wound. That night, I stood on my balcony, watching the city lights flicker. I realized something simple but powerful. Closure isn't something you get from another person. It's something you decide to give yourself. And I decided that night that I was done being the guy whose story was defined by heartbreak. I wasn't a victim. I wasn't a hero. I was just someone who loved, lost, and learned. For the first time in years, I felt free. Ashes of the past. The night the sirens wailed through Crescent Falls, I already knew it was too late. Smoke rose above the tree-line like a black pillar. The fire painted the horizon orange, swallowing the stars. I ran, heart pounding against my ribs, every step heavier than the last. The smell hit first, burning wood, melting metal, the faint sting of gasoline. When I turned the corner onto Main Street, I saw it. The old hotel was on fire. Flames licked at the windows, roaring like an animal finally set free. "Emma," I shouted, my voice lost in the chaos. Firefighters were already on scene, shouting orders, dragging hoses. People crowded the street, their faces lit by the glow. Someone grabbed my arm, Sheriff Morales. "Jack, you can't go in there. She's still inside," I yelled. Before she could stop me, I broke free and ran straight into the smoke. Inside, the air was thick and angry. Every breath burned my lungs. I pulled my jacket over my mouth and pushed forward, past fallen beams and shattered glass. "Emma," I shouted again. A voice answered, faint and desperate, from the hallway near the back. I followed the sound until I saw her, crouched near the stairwell, trying to free an older man trapped under debris. Her hands were bleeding, but she wouldn't stop. "Help me," she gasped. Together we lifted the beam just enough to drag him clear. The moment we did, the ceiling above groaned, ready to give. "Go," I shouted. She grabbed the man's arm and stumbled toward the door. I followed, half blind, guiding them through smoke that felt alive. Then the second explosion hit. The back wall caved in, throwing me to the floor. Heat seared my skin. Everything turned white. When I woke up, I was lying on the pavement. Rain hissed as it hit the flames. Emma knelt beside me, coughing but alive. Paramedics swarmed around us. The hotel was gone, just a burning skeleton against the night sky. I sat up, dizzy, staring at the destruction. "Everyone out?" I asked. Emma nodded weakly. "Almost. 2 injured, no fatalities." Her voice cracked. "But Jack, this wasn't an accident." She handed me something, a small metal canister, blackened by fire. A faint chemical smell leaked from the cap. "Accelerant," I said, jaw tightening. "Someone set this." Morales approached, soaked to the bone, her radio crackling. Fire Marshal confirmed the same. Multiple ignition points. My chest went cold. This wasn't random. Someone wanted to erase this town, and maybe me with it. Later that night, after the fire was mostly out, I walked the perimeter with Morales. The rain had turned to mist, but the heat still radiated from the wreckage. "Any suspects?" I asked. "Not yet," she said. "But this feels connected to your old case." I didn't answer. I didn't have to. The pattern was too familiar. The same chemical compound, the same setup. Whoever had started those fires 5 years ago had returned to finish what they started, and I had led them straight here. At dawn, the streets were littered with ash. The town was silent except for the hiss of cooling metal. Emma found me sitting on the curb, staring at what used to be the hotel sign. "You think this was about you," she said quietly. "I know it was. She shook her head. You can't carry that forever. Emma, I said, voice low. That fire 5 years ago, the one that killed 3 people, I was lead investigator. We never caught the arsonist. I filed it cold and walked away. But they didn't forget. She sat beside me. Then we find them now. Her tone wasn't angry. It was steady, determined. The same tone that had kept me alive inside that burning building. We spent the next hours digging through what little evidence remained. Melted cameras, half-burned files, fragments of metal. Morales joined us, though I could tell she didn't like where this was going. Jack, she said, if you're right, then this is bigger than Crescent Falls. These fires, they're personal. And whoever's doing it knows you. I nodded. Then they'll come again. They always do. By evening, word spread through town that I was leaving. Not running, following the trail. The fire had given me something I hadn't had in years, direction. Before I packed, Emma stopped by my motel. She looked exhausted, her hair still smelling faintly of smoke. I found something, she said, handing me a scorched folder she'd pulled from the wreck. Inside was a name, D. Vance. My blood went cold. Daniel Vance had been my partner during the original case. He'd disappeared right after the last fire, assumed dead. Impossible, I whispered. He's gone. Maybe not, Emma said. Maybe he's been watching. Outside, the last light of the day bled across the ruins. The smell of burned wood mixed with rain. I closed the folder. If he's alive, I said, he's about to wish he wasn't. Emma grabbed my arm before I left. Jack, don't let revenge make you forget why you started this. I didn't answer, but her words followed me into the night, heavy as the smoke still hanging over the town. That night, I dreamed of fire. Not the kind that destroys, the kind that purifies. I saw faces in the flames, heard voices calling my name. When I woke, I knew what I had to do. I opened my notebook, crossed out the last unsolved name, and wrote a new one in its place. Daniel Vance, alive. The storm outside was finally dying down, but the fire inside me was just getting started. Tomorrow, I would follow the trail, all the way back to where it began. The last goodbye. The morning after the fire, the sky over Crescent Falls was the same color as the ashes that clung to my boots. The air smelled of wet smoke, and the once bustling town square was now wrapped in an eerie silence. People moved like ghosts through the ruins. Firefighters, paramedics, townsfolk carrying boxes of what little they could save. I stood near what used to be the diner, where Emma had once served me that first cup of coffee and smiled like she saw something good in me. Now there was nothing left but a broken sign swinging in the wind. Sheriff Morales approached quietly, clipboard in hand. You holding up? She asked. Trying to, I said. Looks like it started near the storage units behind the hotel, she said, voice low. Gas leak, maybe, but we can't rule out arson yet. The words hit harder than I expected. If someone had started that fire, it wasn't just an accident. It was a message. Emma joined us, her face pale but calm. She had stood on her hands and a bandage across her cheek, but her eyes were sharp, alive. I found something, she said, holding out a half-burned envelope. It was addressed to me. Inside, a note, written in that same blocky, uneven handwriting I'd seen before. You should have stayed gone. Some ghosts don't want to be found. I stared at it for a long time. Then I crumpled it in my fist. That's not a threat, I said. That's a confession. By noon, the investigators confirmed what I already suspected. The fire had been deliberate. The same accelerant used at the mill years ago, the one from the old case I had failed to close. It wasn't random. It was connected to me. I found Emma sitting by the riverbank, staring at the water where the reflection of smoke still twisted like black ribbons. They'll rebuild, she said quietly. Yeah, I replied. But it won't ever be the same. She turned to me, eyes wet but steady. You're leaving, aren't you? I didn't answer right away. The truth was already written all over my face. Where will you go? Wherever this leads, I said. Whoever did this, they're still out there. And I can't let them do it again. Emma nodded. No anger, no begging, just understanding. That's what made it harder. Then promise me something, she said. When you find them, don't lose yourself again. You're more than your mistakes. Her words were simple, but they hit deeper than any bullet ever could. That night, I packed what little I had left, a duffel bag, my badge, the old notebook full of names and dates that haunted my sleep. I stood at the edge of town, where the highway curved out into darkness. The wind carried the faint scent of burned wood and rain. Emma stood a few feet away, her jacket pulled tight against the cold. You don't have to say it, I said. I'll say it anyway, she replied. Goodbye, Jack. I hesitated. This isn't goodbye. Just see you later. She smiled, that same small, knowing smile from the first day we met. Then I'll be here when later comes. The engine growled to life, headlights cutting through the fog. As I drove past the sign that read Crescent Falls, population 1,204, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the rearview mirror. For the first time in years, I didn't just see a broken detective chasing old ghosts. I saw a man finally moving forward. Hours later, somewhere along Route 9, my phone buzzed with a single message. No name, no number. We're not done yet. The headlights flickered. I looked out at the empty road stretching ahead, a dark ribbon winding toward whatever waited next. I tightened my grip on the wheel and kept driving. Because some ghosts aren't meant to be buried. And some stories don't end. They just change direction.